Hi peeps, have you ever wanted to be a rough, tough, mean-looking mercenary? Enjoy shouting at teammates and enemies alike to show off your macho-ness? Like to be called Kruber? No? Just me? Well, either way, have I got a build for you. Introducing Markus Kruber, one of the famous Uberschreck 5, here in the flesh. Or well, at least a close look-alike. Don't let the fact that he's missing his iconic feather hat fool you. He can still take down tough bosses like Margit easily. Subscribe if you like not getting wrecked by Margit. Everything used in this build can be grabbed without fighting any of the major bosses. Now that's handy. Here's how I recreated Markus Kruber as a character inside of Elden Ring. I'm going to start off with a quick rundown of the build, and then go into detail about what I used, how I made my decisions on what to use, and where to find everything for this build. I started off as a vagabond. The vagabond starts with a halberd, which I used until I upgraded to the Knight Rider glaive. I apply the Ash of War barbaric roar to the weapon for thematic reasons. I have a Serpent God's curved sword in my offhand for its special effect, but I two-hand the Knight Rider glaive. I use the Gelmir Knight armor set because it looks similar to Mercenary Kruber's look. I equip the Roar medallion to improve the buff from barbaric roar, and I mostly put my levels into vigor, strength, and endurance. I start off with the Vagabond class. Vagabonds, mercenaries, they're basically the same thing, right? Plus, Kruber is a fairly strong guy. He fights off hordes of Skavens like they're nothing. So, having higher strength and endurance for the base of this character build helps us out a bit. The other reason to pick Vagabond is because it comes with a halberd as a piece of your starting gear. Promotional art of Kruber in Vermintide seems to show him off with a halberd fairly often, so it makes sense to make that his main weapon. I know some of you will say, but lazy Casper, Kruber can wield all sorts of deadly weaponry in the games, and that's where a strength build comes in. With a good amount of strength, you'll have access to a wide variety of weapons, should you choose to use them. Elden Ring has got swords, greatswords, maces, spears, and even great hammers, all of which could be paired off with a nice shield if you like. Aside from weaponry, every hero and career in Vermintide has got a career ability they can use. The Mercenary's career ability has him shouting out loud, boosting his temporary health and knocking down enemies around him. Elden Ring doesn't quite have an ability that mimics that exactly, but I've got something close. There are a few roaring ashes of war in Elden Ring that you can apply to your weapon, and the one I've chosen is the Barbaric Roar. This roar buffs your character, increasing attack power for a little while. It's kind of like the Pace Strikes passive ability that Mercenary Kruber gets, so think of this like a 2-in-1 knockoff of Kruber's abilities. This Ash of War is the first item in this build I grab, aside from the starting equipment. You can get this Ash of War by killing a dung beetle in the northernmost tip of Liurnia, in the ravine, near the ravine-veiled village Grace. It's guarded by a bunch of bats, so be quick about it or you'll end up dead like me. I take my revenge by shouting at them and beating them up. The next item I grab is the Knight Raider glaive. You can get this item by defeating a Knight's Cavalry near the East Raya Lucaria Gate Grace. It's a strong upgrade from the starting halberd, and doesn't require you to beat any bosses before you get it. I guess you could consider the Knight's Cavalry you have to fight a boss though, because he's got a pretty good amount of health. I suggest upgrading the halberd to at least +3 to make this fight easier. Also, these fake Nazgul Knights don't show up until nighttime, so take a rest at the Grace before the fight. This weapon looks pretty cool, has a shape that sort of matches the halberd shown in Mercenary Kruber art, and has S tier scaling for strength at max upgrades with a heavy affinity. With a weapon like this, even a magma worm can't stand in your way. I had to fight a magma worm to reach the next item, because I didn't get the Dectus medallion. Not that I ever get the Dectus medallion. Take the Grand Lift of Dectus if you don't want to fight the magma worm. The Gelmir Knight armor is the closest I can get to looking like Kruber. It's missing a bit of red in it, which you could get from the Red Mane Knight set, but I wasn't about to farm knights for hours hoping to get lucky. If you don't like the cape, you can always alter the armor with the sewing kit. This armor is found in the Gelmir Hero's Grave, which is close to the base of Mount Gelmir. Run in, try not to get run over by the chariot or skeletons, drop down onto some wooden beams, and hop into one of the small windows. The armor set is guarded by a Bloodhound Knight, but you could just grab the item without fighting him off first if you're not confident in fighting him off. Next up is the Serpent God's curved sword. This weapon gives you health with every kill. Since this ability mimics one of Vermintide's iconic health regaining mechanics somewhat, I just had to use it. We have to backtrack a bit because I forgot to grab something the last time I was in the ruin-strewn precipice where we fought the magma worm. The Serpent God's curved sword is here. protected by a giant land octopus. I swoop in, grab it, and leave, because I'm not interested in fighting a gross looking tentacle monster. Finally, we've got the roar medallion I use to improve the buff that barbaric roar gives. This talisman makes your roar even better, and in my opinion, more damage is always good. Plus, roaring is fun. This one is guarded by the Stone Digger Troll in the Limgrave tunnels. It's a pretty early area, so you shouldn't have too much trouble with this one. I did a little comparison to show off the damage increase. It's not massive, but remember, many little raindrops make a storm. Now, let's talk about stats, or attributes. You'll need 26 strength and 10 dex to use the Knight Rider Glaive. Vagabonds start with 13 dex, so we're good on that front. 26 strength is going to need a few level ups in order to reach. Aside from that, I suggest leveling vigor and endurance a good amount. I say vigor because if you're anything like me, you'll probably take a few hits on your journey through Elden Ring, so you'll definitely appreciate the extra health it gives you. Endurance is handy because it increases your maximum equip load, and you'll want that in order to wear the armor without being as slow as a rock. It's also useful because the extra stamina will allow you to get in front of the enemy, throw out a few attacks, and back off without running out of stamina. You don't want to be defending an attack without enough stamina. With this build, you'll be ready to take on anything with style, just like Kruber. Just look at the super cool way that I took out Margit with this build. It was definitely totally on the first try. I absolutely didn't do multiple takes because I kept dying. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Bye!